Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'll be previewing from the Shelton Boys basketball program. Brian Gardiner is with me. He's been part of the program since the early 2000s. Coach, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, Chris. This is great.
You know, thinking about Shelton, right? And you guys are not too far out from the NVL, or at least that side, just outside Ansonia Derby.
Yeah,
You and I were just talking about, or I mentioned to you how Donut Crazy is one of my favorite spots in
yeah,
Shelton. And, I asked you as far as the program and kind of what's the makeup a little bit before we came on.
yeah,
And one thing I can tell you is in terms of the programs overall in the school. I know football kind of had a not typical football year, but again, everything is cyclical. I'm
yeah,
sure they'll be back next year. But one
yeah.
thing I know is sports at Shelton are very good.
Mm,
And it's one of those things where I know basketball, you're going to share your
mm,
information. I look forward to being able to talk to you about with that.
yeah,
Before we go any further, I want to look at how you started as far as the coaching aspect came into play. What
mm.
got you into coaching, man?
Well, honestly, my senior year of high school, I got mono and I missed half my senior year. And I was doing whatever I could to help the team in the time that was out. And
Mhm.
I just kind of I just gravitated towards it. Like, I really liked that aspect of helping people and teaching them things and pumping them up. And it I said to myself, I really like to get into coaching. And the opportunity it was perfect timing because I just graduated from UConn and I was doing my master's at Sacred Heart and I was doing an internship at Shelton High
Mhm.
School. And the freshman job opened up literally the fall when I started.
Mhm.
And Coach Sedlock, who was my coach in high school, he was like, a job just opened up and I think you're the perfect guy for it. And I really want you to coach with me. And I just kind of lucked out, in that respect. And I just loved it. Like, I just loved everything about it. I still do. And I just moved through from freshman to JV and to varsity, and that's where I'm at.
As you were moving through from freshman to JV to varsity and such, at what point did you start to realize that you had the ability to be like a head coach, like you had the makings of that?
Well, Coach Sedlock used to tell me a lot. He's like, I think you're going to be a really good head coach. When I'm done, I really would like to see you take over the program.
Mhm.
And I just felt like I had the work ethic to do it because it takes a ton of work to be a varsity coach. And I'm just kind of like maniacal about it. Like, I immerse myself in it.
Mhm.
It's just me. Everything about it, I love.
What what was it about? Because obviously being the head coach is shown as you are, and obviously having the background of being there in the past, and obviously having that kind of, you're entrenched in the history already, right? Like you know that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that kind of helps when you have players who maybe move into Shelton and are new to the program, incoming freshmen, so on, or even older, players who may not know the history? Are you able to kind of give them that as a coach?
Oh yeah. We preach it all the time. Like, Shelton basketball, but just Shelton sports, because I know we were talking about football, is like we just have a culture of like really hard nosed, gritty, work hard, tough. Like, we're not the biggest, we're not the strongest. Like, if you talk to Coach DeFelice, who's one of my good friends, who's the head football coach, his guys aren't huge, but they play really hard, they work hard, and they find the way. I know this year they had a lot of injuries and it was a down year, but that's the vibe we have at Shelton. Like, the coaches, head coaches, were just about grit and toughness and finding a way and not backing down, out working, out hustling. And that's kind of what I try to, portray to the younger kids as they're coming up and moving through.
No, I know coming into this school year, as did football and any other program that did not have their particular sport playing at that season, you had the opportunity to have some practices a couple hours per week, a couple times. Were you able to do that with a good number of kids, a decent number? I know obviously football and soccer and other sports maybe played a factor, but has that kind of helped you kind of come
You're
into where
talking
you're
about the
at?
summer program?
Yeah, summer and then the fall and such
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. The summer was awesome. Like, I
Okay.
really didn't know what to expect coming in.
Mhm.
And I was a little worried because we have a lot of multi-sport athletes in Shelton. So, you have a football, basketball, baseball player, or, a soccer, football, or soccer, basketball player, and you're like, wow, they're gonna have a lot going on.
Mhm.
But for us, it was great. Like, we kind of organized it in our school where we had fall sports on certain days, winter sports on certain days, spring sports. So they didn't conflict,
Okay.
which was good. And I mean, we had high numbers. We were getting 15, 16, 17 plus guys at our practices. We kind of worked it. We fell into a routine of a practice a week, and then we'd have a summer league game or two.
Mhm.
So, we were going a good 3 days a week throughout the summer.
No, I think it also helped too that you guys knew early on that the season was going to be moving up a week early. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, the snow kind of threw a monkey wrench in that because it takes away if you're having tryouts or if you're just trying to get some practice in. I know
Yeah.
a couple coaches I know in the NVL as far as having tryouts and all that, jumping right into, you have one day basically of tryouts because you got to get ready for games because that starts up, the season begins, I think, the 17th. I know our I know our first game is the 17th. We have Wilby in Watertown. Um, do you think the snow, like, did that play a monkey wrench for you guys too, or no?
It didn't, thank God. I was getting a little worried because we had a delay.
Okay.
So we ended up being fine and we had our tryouts that day. The season moving up a week,
Mhm.
it's it's a it's jam packed. This is a rat race because I was telling my team,
Mhm.
like, we play the 17th as well. That's our first game. We
Okay.
just finished tryouts yesterday. So today was our first practice. We only have 6 practices and 2 scrimmages before we play, which is
Yeah.
nowhere near enough time
Yeah.
to get your team like where you want to be.
Yeah.
So it's plotting and planning and mapping out 6 days and
Yep.
maximizing those 6 days. And
Yep.
that's why we did a double today. I tried to steal practice today.
I think to equate to kind of this whole thing as far as having, like you just said, it's a rat race. You got six practices, two scrimmage, and away you go. Have fun. Good luck. You
Yeah.
know, I think of it as where like an offensive line or a senior related team that comes back for football or any sport, there's a little bit less of that glue that you have to worry about because they're pretty glued together.
Yep.
Now, you're going to tell me as far as Shelton and what you guys have coming back, and maybe that's going to
Yep.
help. But I know in
Yep.
the NVL, there's a
Mhm.
lot of teams that lost a lot of talent
Mhm.
and they need every single minute of every practice possible.
Yep.
Otherwise,
Mhm.
and I've said this to everybody, even the teams that come back, first couple games, pretend like they didn't even happen. Just pretend like because it's going to get ugly. I trust me. I've seen turnovers galore. First couple games, my
Mhm.
broadcast partner needs to bring Tums because he hates turnovers, right? But
So do I as a
yeah,
coach. I hate
exactly.
turnovers.
Coaches too. I'm sure you want to like whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the end of the day, if you can get more time, and I know you guys are constricted because of the hours and because of the lesser practice time. So it's going to be something. So people be aware of that. For
Mhm.
you, what do you have coming back? What do you have
Okay,
coming back?
so yeah, for us, just going back to what you said with the summertime,
Hmm.
it was good to kind of go through some stuff. The only problem is we couldn't continue that in the fall as head coaches. Like we played in the fall league, but we couldn't coach them in the fall because the summer, mid August is when the coaching window ended. So it was like now you have a gap between August and December where you weren't running through your plays with them and stuff like that. So you got to kind of catch them back up. But fortunately for us, we do have a good amount of varsity experience coming back. So we can hopefully lean on those guys. I think we have like 7 guys, 6 or 7 guys that had legitimate varsity experience last year. So that's a good core. And then we have a strong sophomore class
Hmm.
that pick up on things quick. So you learn from the older guys, you kind of lean on those guys, and you got younger guys that pick up on things quick. So you're hoping that, by the time you start, you're in a decent position to kind of know what you're doing, first
Do
game.
you do you feel like too, man, that again, I feel like in the beginning of the season, it's kind of like with football. You'll see a couple games early on that you'll be like, "Oh wow, this team lost to that team. That's a surprise." Or like in basketball, I see it every single year. There's always one or two games that I see, "Wow, X team lost to this team." And then at the end of the season, it's like, "How did that happen?" But again, it's the preparation, it's the
Yeah.
glue and everything. Do you feel like Shelton has a chance to maybe steal a couple games early on because of what you have coming back?
Well, that's what we're hoping, and you're trying to do the best you can to prepare off, what you see on film and
Hmm.
getting kids ready, and you're just hoping that, they're able to execute better earlier. That's what's going to come down to, like, what team can execute better early in the year. Because when you get towards January, when now everyone's kind of in the flow of what they're doing, how they're doing it, is just can you get your team to be effective and execute early.
Hmm.
And if you can do that, and then sometimes it's luck. Sometimes, you get a play here or play there, someone banks a shot and you win a game by two and you build some confidence. And
Hmm.
that's when you can, I feel like that's when you can start stealing some games is when a team starts playing with some confidence.
I've always said ever since I started broadcasting for ATR in where we do the NVL games, I've always said that basketball is a tale of three seasons. You have before the new year,
Yeah.
you have after the new year, and then you have the postseason if you have the opportunity, right? And it's funny because of the 20 games, like if you get out slow to like a 1-3, 1-4 start, you
Mhm.
can recover,
Mhm.
but you don't want to get too much deeper than that, right? And then
Mhm.
at some points, it's like it gets late quick or late
Yeah.
early. So
Mhm.
for Shelton over the last couple years, have you been a team that's been able to start out early or get hot early or like what's
The
that?
the last couple years we have not, and we've
Okay.
kind of gotten, like you said, you kind of start chasing, you get behind, you start,
Yeah.
I feel like guys get a little bit out of sorts sometimes
Mhm.
when you fall behind early.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like it's really important to start strong.
Yeah.
Like you can win a couple games early, and it just makes kids believe in themselves a little bit more.
Mhm.
And then you could win some 50-50 games when
Yeah.
you have that confidence that you've done it before. When you start losing close games, like last year, we lost so many close games early on. And
Mhm.
then it's like you st- teams like got to find a way to like you learn how to win, right? And every year it's the team's different. Kids graduate, you have new guys coming in, they have to learn how to win. And
Mhm.
once they do that, winning leads to winning. You know, losing a lot of times leads to losing because doubt creeps in.
Mhm.
So you're right. Like early on, getting early wins does set a good foundation for moving through the season.
Was there a couple games in particular last year that you kind of think to yourself like you wish you could have gotten back, maybe because of the situations you said?
Oh yeah, like I mean, we had like a 8 or 10 point lead to Sheehan with like 4 minutes ago, and we lost.
Mhm.
Um, they hit a huge. I mean, they hit a couple huge threes down the stretch. We had a game at Cheshire where
Mhm.
we literally had the lead for the first 31 and a half minutes of the game.
Oh, that's brutal.
They took their first lead on a steal and a layup with like 20 something seconds left.
Oh,
So it's like
brutal.
it's amazing how you can be in the lead for
Yep.
almost 100, 90 some percent of the game, and they get the steal in the basket and they win. So it's like those types of games change your season because that's two losses instead of two wins.
Yeah.
And now you start falling behind. But we just we had some heartbreaking ones. Those two just stand out to me as ones that like if we could have gotten those, you'd probably win a couple more later on.
The SEC, obviously, I know I mentioned for football is very strong. It's strong too in basketball as well. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. It,
West Haven losing on a basically a prayer by Windsor being able to get through that game. But I saw West Haven against Holy Cross and they were like 8 to 10 deep and they were big. They had one kid in particular that was massive and they
yeah,
gave Holy Cross troubles and they gave a lot of people troubles. Hamden, I know, is typically pretty good too. There's some other teams as well, but
yeah.
it's almost as if you can get through the SEC part
Mhm.
and be out of that alive and qualify for the playoffs, you're
Yeah.
pretty battle tested.
Oh yeah. I mean, SEC is so strong. I mean, we have the best team in the state in Notre Dame and West Haven.
Yeah, that,
Um,
yep,
you,
that one. Yep.
and you got, your Wilbur Cross, you got Hill House, you got Xavier, you got Fairfield Prep, you got West Haven, like Hamden, like it. I mean, and there's more, but like it is such a strong conference, and then you get some schools like public schools who they ebb and flow, like you say, like they may be down a few years and then they get a couple really good players in, and then now you add them to that pool of like the traditional powerhouses, like someone like Foreign's going to be really good. They have, three really good players with a lot of experience, two good sophomores that started as freshmen, so you start looking at from top to bottom how deep, the league is, and we take pride in that. The SEC coaches, we take pride in that. Like in our league and how tough it is. And postseason, you can see a lot of those teams. You had Notre Dame, West Haven making to the state championship games. You know, so it's just based off of how tough the league schedule is.
I'm glad you mentioned Xavier because what Coach does there has been magnificent. I saw them a
Yeah,
couple years ago when they played Kennedy.
yeah,
They had a great team. I think they came one game short. I think they lost in the semis, if I remember right, that year.
Mm.
But again, they're always competitive.
Yep.
West Haven with Tora and that group, they ran through everybody, had maybe two close games. And I
Yep.
mean, I hate
Mm.
to say this, but unless I see otherwise, you might as well put them in the Division 1 title game now because they look very good.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they're the best team in the state,
Yeah.
and it's going to be very tough to beat them.
Yes.
Their talent level's high, they're well coached, and yeah, they're the cream of the crop. And obviously they represent the SEC and
Hmm.
the state of Connecticut. I mean, you have a player in Abdu Torre who's nationally recognized, and that's great. Like that brings a lot of great attention to our league. Like he's a top flight player, getting all kinds of Division 1 looks,
Yeah.
and it's great for our league. Because then it shows like you can play in the public schools and you're getting high level Division 1 looks. I know they're private, but like in the CIAC schools and you're
Yeah.
getting good looks. Like his list of Division 1 offers is impressive.
I think about it too because, and selfishly for your team or other teams, I know you don't want to face, I know you want to face them, but as far as potentially taking an L, that's something you don't want to have. And I'm sure nobody else wants to in the conference. But looking at it from the player's perspective, if you have kids who have an opportunity to, I don't know, maybe play Division 1 or maybe have just aspirations of wanting to play college basketball, playing against him and that talented crew, people are going to come watch them.
Yeah.
Probably very important people. And people also talk, as you know. Everybody talks to each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Maybe looking at it from a conference standpoint, the players, it's a good thing because now maybe there's a kid who's been getting overlooked that has a good game against Notre Dame West Haven. And
Yeah.
even though his team lost, could be your team, could be any team. Well, ex-coach knows this coach from a Division 3 school. One talks to the other. Boom, there's an opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. Like a great point. Here's a good example of what you said is last year SEC semifinals, we hosted it in Shelton.
Okay.
And Kamani Young, who's the associate head coach at UConn, was in the gym.
Oh,
So he's
nice.
watching, yeah, he's watching Abdu. And so yeah, like they're watching, but they might see another kid who they're like, wow, I didn't know about him, but he's playing tough.
Yeah.
Hand play tough, for most of that game. And so
Hmm.
you never know. You have a top level coach sitting there in the building watching one
Yeah.
person, but they can see other people.
Did you talk to him at all? Did you
I
try
did
to?
not. I don't want to bother him, but
Okay.
I was running the show, but the tournament games, but
Uh-huh.
he was right there. He came right in, and they told us ahead of time, like, look, Coach Young's coming.
Yeah.
Just make sure we get him in, get him where he wants to go. And I just
Hmm.
thought it was cool, because I'm a big UConn fan, and to see him come in and show interest in a local kid, right?
Yeah.
UConn was in the midst of their run, like they were playing, like their postseason was happening, yet he took the time to drive all the way from Stores to Shelton to
Hmm.
watch a kid from Notre Dame West Haven.
I mean, I don't blame him because the kid's one of the. I mean, it's hard to imagine he won't be one of. I mean, I don't know what he is ranked wise nationally, but he's got to be up there pretty high.
Oh
He
yeah,
has.
yeah, he is. Yeah, he's brought a lot of attention to himself in a good way. He played
Definitely.
well in the Worlds this summer. Put up some big numbers. He had like 50 points against Australia or something. I don't know who he actually played. I know he had like a 50-point game.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah.
It's crazy. But hey, looking at from the Shelton perspective, as far as for your own team, are like at one point, because everything's going to be coming at so quickly, right? For you, do you have time to be able to kind of reflect like after a practice? Because it's so hard to not go forward without trying to think back. You know what I mean? Because you're trying to do everything. Are you able to process all that?
Yes, constantly. Spend an unbelievable amount of time reflecting and altering and adjusting. And
Hmm.
I have a really, really dedicated coaching staff. We spend a lot of time together, whether in person or on the phone, meeting after every practice, or I'll have them over, just going through things and making adjustments. And like last
Hmm.
night, me and two of my assistants, Chrislyn and John Popoli, we went out to dinner, but we had all our basketball stuff sitting in the restaurant, going through kind of making like groups of who we wanted for practice today, talking about different combinations of players and depth charts and lineups and how we want to handle, this upcoming week.
Hmm.
Um, we have a first scrimmage on Thursday, so we still have three more practices, what we want to get in and what we're seeing in people. Like it's just a constant evaluation and making little tweaks and changes and based off of what we see.
What have you seen so far? I know it's very, very early with this team, but what's your impressions early on?
This team works. Like they work really, really, really hard, and they
Hmm.
listen. They're great kids. They're getting on the floor for loose balls.
Hmm.
They're boxing out. They're hustling. Like they really buy in
Hmm.
to what we're preaching with work ethic,
Hmm.
and predicating everything off of defense. Because in my opinion, early in the year,
Hmm.
offense is going to be a little bit behind just because you don't have enough time.
Yeah.
So the defense just got to be there. So we just pound it, defense, pound defense, pound defense. Like we did an hour and 40 minutes of defense today out of the 2 hour practice.
Oh,
Just to start our foundation, remind them of our rules and principles,
yep.
and we're on them about working hard. Like nothing that we do is ever anything less than 100%, and we'll get on them if they do. So it's just getting them in that habit of grind, work, out hustle,
Hmm.
and they're buying in.
Well, I think that's smart to realize that obviously the offense is going to be a little slow because again, starting pretty early and then having to get everything going, it's tough. Or maybe you just don't have a team that can, I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying teams in general. There are some teams that just can't shoot, but they can do other things. And I
That was
think
us. That was us last year.
that was you last year. Okay.
Yeah, we
I
had a hard
remember.
time putting the ball in the basket. So,
Okay.
yeah,
But
you got to base it. You got to win somehow, right? You go defense, use that to create offense. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So, like, if you're going to be facing teams, like I said, who are, and I've seen this 20, 30, a lot of turnovers, the best way to turn some points off those turnovers is having a good defense who can go in transition.
Yep.
If you got that, that can kind of ease the development of the offense a little bit because you're allowing, like you said, your
Yeah.
defense to make points off
Yep.
turnovers.
Yeah. Steal some easier baskets and not have to work so hard for it in a
Yeah.
half court. Yep.
So, when was the last time Shelton has made a playoff for boys basketball?
Well, um, we were right before COVID. So that
Hmm.
2020 year, 2019, 2020, we had a phenomenal year. We were 18-5.
Oh,
Um, we uh,
Jesus.
we won our first round state tournament game by like 40 points.
Hmm.
We're getting prepped up for the second round. We had Ledger coming in because we had the multiple home games, and
Hmm.
then they canceled it in the middle. They canceled the season in the middle of the school day, and it was like devastating because it was a very special team.
Yeah.
It's like you don't get teams that level all
Hmm.
the time. Like just where we're at, and
Hmm.
it was like the most heartbreaking thing because like Joe Morelli from Game Time had us picked as a Final Four team with the chance to get to
Oh
Mohegan Sun,
no.
and our guys were like just so super focused on potentially being able to do that,
Yeah.
and to have that season canceled, it was at that point it was just devastating because the year before we made the quarterfinals, and
Hmm.
then we backed it up, which we thought we could go farther with that 2020 team, and we were looked like we were, and then we didn't have the opportunity.
Well, COVID
It's
did a lot of things, man. That's
Yep,
one of them.
yep, yeah. It was brutal. It was like the worst possible timing for something like that.
I mean, there's some teams, some programs that are still recovering from that even now.
It it, it took
Basketball,
us
overall.
it took us multiple years. Like
Yeah.
it pushed us down, and we were kind of like because we
Yeah.
had a couple kids leave
Hmm.
um, in the fall of the next year because they were high level players and they were really worried we weren't going to have a season for their senior year.
Yeah.
So in September and October, we lost our two best players. They left for prep school because prep school was playing, and we still didn't know if we were.
Correct.
And it really,
Yeah.
really, it was really difficult to recover from that. So we're hoping that we're bouncing back finally. So
I was gonna say, hopefully this will, it'll get back to, maybe that level at some point. Things can continue to grow. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
Coach, before I let you go, I have to ask you this one question because I've seen the tweets on social media and they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Who runs the Twitter account for the Gaels Twitter?
I
Like,
do.
who's their own account?
I do. I do.
Oh, it's you that do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah, because you follow five people, and I'm like, this person is coming up with all this funny stuff, or like, it's good. It's good by
Yeah.
you. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I do all the social media stuff, and dude, we're just trying to get as much attention
It's good. I like it.
to ourselves and see people in town what we're doing. Like
Yeah.
we had like a really awesome preseason strength and conditioning program. Like if you
Hmm.
saw it and what we were doing, it was like it was impressive. And I give a lot of credit to Coach Picarillo, who's our strength coach. So
Mhm.
I try to post things from time to time just to see like, hey, this is what we're doing to get prepared.
I like that. Good stuff out of you, Coach. Good stuff
Thanks.
out of you.
Yeah.
But hey, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Good conversation. Best of luck this season, Coach. And now, what division are you guys in?
We're in Division 3 for the state tournament.
You're in
Yep.
three. Okay.
Yep.
So
We're in
there are a
Division.
couple teams in the MVL that are there. So maybe our paths will cross down the road, or maybe if it's not an
Yeah.
MVL team and I'm with NFHS,
Yeah,
well, hopefully I
absolutely.
see you down the road at some point, Coach.
Yeah.
Be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Always. I'll wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. Next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Driven by them all. Enjoy the show, everybody, and be well.